If you're looking for a recap of the Disney Parks news from Destination D23, or even just a breakdown of what Destination D23 is and how it compares to D23 Expo, then this is the video for you.
To all who come to our happy place, welcome to the No Guilt Disney podcast, where we have no guilt about our love for all things Disney.
We are three Disney fangirls who probably know more about the Disney parks than most grown women should, and we're perfectly okay with that. We love it so much, we're actually carrying the love of three women, even though there's only two of us today.
There are only two of us today. Jane is sitting this one out. She's got homework and whatnot. So we'll catch up with her on the next round of videos and podcast. But you got, Theresa and Patty, and we're going to talk about, I think, something that's like right up both of our alleys in a lot of ways. We love the Disney Parks news. We love the changes. We love the expo of it all. And Theresa just went to a Destination D, and she's going to tell us all about the news drops that came out. But more importantly, she's also going to tell us about the vibes, and she's going to tell us about like how this is different from D23 Expo, because I think a lot of us don't know. I think that's fair to say. But especially if we've never been to this event, which I've never been to this event. So we're going to jump into all that real quick. But Theresa, please introduce yourself to those who are just tuning in for the first time.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Theresa. I think I'm our resident Disney Parks, definitely the nerdiest of all of us. The Disney history.
Nerdiest,
yes, that's me. And you can find me on all socials at Gertie the Dino.
Hi, all. I'm Patty Holiday from the No Guilt Universe, which is noguiltdisney.com, No Guilt Fangirl, No Guilt Life, and No Guilt Travel. You can find me on all socials at No Guilt Life. And like we said, we're here to talk about the Destination D. So, quick rewind. This happened last weekend, and Theresa was there while Jane and I we're oogie boogieing it up in Disneyland. So we're going to have both of those episodes are probably going to drop back to back, honestly. You're probably just going to get this boom, boom, boom of content because we were kind of saving up all of September to bring you these two big weekends that each of us had. And we're just going to drop it all at once because why gatekeep it from anybody? So we're going to throw it all out. So no, you're not going to be like dreaming when you get multiple videos at the same time. Also, to be honest, like if I don't get it out right away, it ain't ever gonna get out. So that's the way I work.
Well, and just kind of knowing, if you've listened to any of our previous podcast episodes, you know these two topics are things that are very near and dear to our hearts.
Absolutely.
Jane especially, anything Halloween. I think this is just we're very excited to discuss these. So it's also 1,000%. It's for you, but really it's a little bit for us.
100%. Okay. All right. So first of all, let's talk about what is Destination D versus D23 Expo.
Sure. So Destination D or Destination D23, it is another event held by D23. Kind of, there it's the part of the Walt Disney Company that is there looking at the Disney history and doing a lot of different fan events, kind of just to celebrate what's happened in the past and what's to come in the future. So Destination D23 is held on alternate years from D23 Expo. So they'll do Expo one year, they'll do Destination D23 the next year. Expo will be out in California. Destination D23 is held in Florida. And I think the biggest difference is, to your point, talking about the vibes, Destination D23 is much more chill. Okay. And I mean that because you don't have the stress of you're going to this event and you're wondering, what am I going to get to do when I'm there? I really appreciate that when you get your ticket for Destination D23, you get to go to all of the panels. You get all of the content, everything that they're offering to you. So you kind of go in the morning and you're in one of the ballrooms in the Contemporary, and then it's just kind of panels back to back. So D23 Expo, if you've done it before, there's a lottery to hopefully get into some of the big panels or to guarantee your spot.
There's a whole schedule, and it's a whole schedule, and it's also gut-wrenching because you're trying to decide if you want to go to this or to go to that because they're at the same time, because of course they are. Like, I had that happen to me a couple of times. Like, two of my biggest fandoms were like butting up against each other, and I was just like, you jerks.
Yes, it's like I said, it's a great event. We've all gone. We love this event, but for me, I appreciate that it does take less planning to kind of think through if you're going to do Destination D. And again, it's just a much more chill vibe. I think it attracts more of the history focused people, because
just like one day
It is
versus like a
it's
whole weekend?
it is a full weekend.
Oh,
So
it is.
sometimes they'll
Okay.
have special events on Friday. This year, they have 3 different shops there. So again, D23 Expo has a ton of shopping and a ton of vendors.
Hmm.
It's like Destination D is a more condensed version,
Okay.
not in a bad way, but so you can get, like, you have your reserved shopping time, so you can go to any of the shops, and not have to worry about missing panels for it on over the weekend. And then on Saturday and Sunday it's full days of panels and special events in the evening, which is another little bit of a difference. I feel like you get a little more for your money at Destination D based on some of the gifts that they give you, the events that they have planned in the evenings. I love this event. They do also have an exhibit. This year was about animatronics. So they have, you get to see a little bit of everything from all aspects of the company, similar to how you do at D23 Expo, but it tends to be a little more focused on history. There's a specific topic every year. So this year was obviously celebrating 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. And they kind of focus, even though you might have something about, there's a brief Marvels panel or a Disney Cruise Line panel, they kind of find a way to work it in to the overall theme.
Okay, so what I literally heard was this is your weekend. Like this
Yes,
is basically, if you guys want to know about Theresa, there you go.
this is it.
That's the description of it, and this fits with her so well. And I will tell you guys, I was watching Twitter and checking on things the entire weekend that we were at Disneyland, and every single time I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to hear what Teresa say. Teresa's going to either love this or hate this. I can't wait to hear which way she decided to go on it." So we got a lot of just feedback and information to give from a very big self-described Disney nerd. We say with love, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But one of the big things that they did come out with is like some rebranding, some changes with D23 Expo. So this is going to be called something else altogether now. And we also have dates. And I have to
Yes.
ask, did you book your hotel room already?
I did not yet, and I'll
Okay.
explain why in a moment. But
Okay.
yeah, so I have been referring to D23 Expo. They are no longer calling it D23 Expo. The official new name is D23, the Ultimate Fan Event. I will be honest, that's a long title, and just condensing it to D23 does not clarify it from, that part of the company versus the event itself. I probably will refer to it as Expo, at least for a while, simply because I think
Hi,
I
Elon
don't
Musk and Twitter. Like it's still Twitter. It's still
right.
D23
It's still,
Expo.
to me, it's still future world in Epcot. Like
Right.
I'm not resistant to change, but it just takes a minute
MGM
for my brain to
Studios.
embrace it.
Okay. So yeah.
But yeah, so it is now D23, the Ultimate Fan Event. The dates of the panels, the event itself, is going to be August 9th to 11th, 2024. They have made some interesting announcements, though. So earlier, before then, they are doing something that really does appeal to me. They're doing a D23 day at Angel Stadium, which is where the Los Angeles Angels play. If you know anything about me outside of Disney, my next biggest fandom is baseball. Like, I'm diehard Orioles fan. I do have goals of seeing all the stadiums across the country, so I love the idea of doing it with a group of Disney fans. But so they said that's going to be on August 4th. They are doing a special day at Disneyland on August 8th. But the biggest piece of news and biggest update that they have made is that so they're going to have like the shopping exhibits and the smaller panels during the day at the Anaheim Convention Center, and then in the evenings they are moving over to the Honda Center, which is a massive, huge, like concert venue.
Yeah.
And that's where I believe they're going to be doing those signature panels. So the Disney Parks panels, the live action and animated film panels, the ones that people usually wait out overnight for. They are moving it to a much larger venue.
And
So
at
that way,
night.
as
And
many
at
people as
night.
possible can at night. And so so I love the idea that they're going to making it so anybody who wants to go can go. It will be interesting to see if they do like those tickets just for the Honda Center part, like just for those big
Right.
panels. That would be a separate type of ticket, which I actually think is a great idea for people who maybe that's all they're interested in. It kind of frees up some space in
Mm-hmm.
the convention center for everybody else. My concern, and this is where I'm on the fence about what I'm doing this year, even though I do think these are great changes. I don't know how they're going to be getting people to and from because it's not that close. I was asking somebody who knows a little better than I do, and it's not necessarily walkable because of the location. They would have to be some kind
Technically,
of
it is because we used to run through there during the Disneyland half marathon weekends. However, no, to your point, that was my very first thought was, are they going to plan some kind of a shuttle situation? Is there going to be some kind of transportation back and forth? Because it's not close. They have parking lots, I assume, over at well, Angel Stadium definitely has parking lots because we also ran through that. But the Honda Stadium obviously is going to have parking lots too. But most people don't get cars or maybe can't drive for accessibility reasons. So therefore, like, okay, the car situation, like, yeah, we need some more transportation info. Agreed.
Yes. And then and my other and this is me, this is based on how I do D23 Expo in the past. Those evenings are also part of my Disneyland time.
He agrees with you. He's so angry that they're taking
Yes.
away your Disneyland time. Look how mad my dog has gotten.
He's worked up.
He is. Anyway, ignore him.
Yeah. But yeah, so and like I said, and with all of these other events, I know they said they're having the D23 kickoff. I do like to have full days at Disneyland before and after Expo, but I like having the evenings to spend a little more time in different areas of Disneyland. So I just have to think through and decide: am I okay with am I okay with the extra cost if I want to do this kind of California trip the way I typically do to be able to get as much Disneyland time as I normally
Yeah.
do? Or do I want to shift when I go to Disneyland? Because I've only ever been in August and September because of this event. Like, do I want to maybe not go to D23, the Ultimate Fan event, and save it to go during the Christmas holiday season, which
Oh, Halloween 365. I thought I had you.
but I want to see Small World all lit up with the Christmas lights.
No, I get it. And that is a top tier moment for anybody, but definitely for somebody like you. So I get it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
so
fair.
I have time to think about it. I would say if you're
Yeah.
considering it, I do know people who, as soon as the dates were announced, talking about how they were already reserving their hotels.
Mm-hmm.
So tickets will go on sale sometime in the spring. No date on
Mm-hmm.
that yet. But yeah, so I would say if you're considering it, doesn't hurt to do like a refundable deposit on a hotel. I just have to figure out what my plans are. I mean, I have to decide when I want to go to Disneyland. It's hard choices.
Girl, I
I
get
will
it.
still be there at some point, but
I
yes,
get it.
I'm thinking through what my plans are. But we love D23 Expo
I
or
know.
D23 the Ultimate Fan event. So if you're thinking about it, definitely kind of put plans in place now to attend.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we still got. I think the news that we got at this parks panel that we're going to discuss in a bit, I love how they presented it, but I think that there's some things they held back on because they want to make a big splash, especially in such a bigger venue.
100%. I mean, we're going to talk about Destination D, I promise. But my thought was like, they need to hurry up and figure out this whole strike sitch, because their plans and their situation are getting pushed back like considerably the longer this goes on. And if we're having a D23 Expo less than a year from now, those things have got to get hammered out and the timeline has to be figured out for them to present traditionally what they've always presented before, which was the movies and the TV shows, those panels. So, because that's what my fandom, that's what I get most interested in for D23. I'm like, Iger baby, we love you. You know we do, but fix your house, hun. Fix your house. Pay your people.
Yes, and I'll say so on the Sunday if you were paying attention online, you might have seen that Saturday they did live stream
Mm-hmm.
all of the panels for Destination D23, which I think is great for people to get a sense of what it is and to all share
Mm-hmm.
in that news together. But on Sunday we did get a panel based on like animation. We got one, so they did show clips.
And
We
that
saw
was like quietly behind, like, yeah.
yes,
You guys
so
saw some good stuff, right?
but yeah, I'll talk about one of the things we saw shortly. But I was like, I thought that they actually did a really great job, all things considered, with the strike happening, finding ways to present that while people who are striking, not putting anybody in an uncomfortable position.
Good.
I thought they found other people in in the background, kind of, they had somebody who worked on props for Ahsoka, kind of talking about that as they were talking about, the second half of what's gonna coming up in Ahsoka. They had some of the, it's like the directors and producers of Once Upon a Studio, which is the short that they're doing to celebrate 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. And I cannot wait for this to come out and for everybody to see it. It had a very long standing ovation.
Awesome.
It is so sweet and so touching. It's so well done. I need this to be available immediately so I can watch it again, but for everybody else to watch it, it's fantastic. But I appreciated that.
Like I got kind of goosebumps about that, so I'm excited about that one too.
I can't say enough great things about it. I'm glad, in the midst of everything happening, that the people who did work so hard on that got to hear the reaction in person. Because number one, you don't get that a lot when you kind of invest so much of your time. You don't get to hear the audience reaction from people who are so passionate about it. But I think having the people that they did for those panels, I'm sure was challenging to figure out what to do. I thought they just did a really great job.
Good. Okay.
Not making it feel like anything was lacking because they didn't have any big star names.
Yeah. Well, let's just hope they figure this out sooner rather than later for all of us, because it really, I don't know how much people are really paying attention or where you fall on it. But what I will tell you, just as an average person who likes to watch TV and watch movies, we're going to go into a really big dry spell, because it does take time for these things to be created and produced and edited and put out and scheduled and all of that stuff. And this has been going on since, what was it, May, April? I can't remember how.
It's been a few months.
It's been a while. This, we're talking here in September, and it could easily go into October, November. And I think if that happens, I'm just saying, as a consumer, you are going to notice a lot of your favorite shows and a lot of your favorite are either not going to come back at all, because people are going to move on. They're going to be like, well, I only scheduled that 1 year to get that done, and I'm committed to other things, and those timelines didn't change, so I can't do XYZ show anymore for you. Like, stuff like that could happen, and that would just be such a bummer.
Yeah, and we saw, like, with the last writer's strike, this was the boom of reality TV. Was because of this, because they're not SAG or WGA. You're right. So we saw that boom. You saw a lot of shows, kind of the storylines they wanted to tell get disrupted.
Yep.
And even just more recently, with COVID, with so many fewer people being able to actually film and do anything, COVID threw off that kind of schedule. So I think we're all hopeful that they'll be able to work something out. I think we also want people to be paid what they're worth and to feel like they're being respected in their industry.
Listen, the money's there. That's the thing, is like, the money is there. It's there. So let's just figure out. And I'm not like this crazy socialist who's like, it all has to be equal. But I do think to your point, you need to be respected and you need to be paid for your work. And I felt like there was a lot of disrespect going on with the way the streamers were playing games and whatever. And so I'm giving a little side eye to just entertainment as a whole, not just Disney, but entertainment as a whole, for some things that I hope that we can find somewhere in the middle to meet and to push this forward. Okay, enough off our soapboxes. Yes. Let's talk about this Parks panel, because there were some cool things coming that I don't think we were expecting to hear about necessarily.
There was one piece of news that completely came out of nowhere for me.
Give it to me.
We'll get there. I'm not going to start with it. Okay. But I wanted to preface the Parks panel, because to Patty's point, like, this is my event. This is like my space. These are my people. And I've done a couple Destination D23s. I've done a few D23 Expos. So I have been in these big newsy Parks panels before. This is my favorite. I won't want to say best, because best is subjective. This is my favorite one of anywhere I've been in attendance. I left this panel feeling like, number one, everything they announced will actually happen, which, if you have done the big expos before, things get announced so early that plans can change, particularly everything that was announced at the 2019 D23 Expo.
Yeah.
Obviously COVID disrupted everybody's plans across the board, and a lot of things that were announced no longer happening. But I also feel like talking about balance, I feel like they struck the right balance between introducing new things, updating classics, incorporating characters and IP, but also celebrating the theme parks as their own unique intellectual
Okay.
property, which is, I feel like that's something they struggled to kind of do all those things at once. But I'm really excited with everything they announced about the future of the Disney parks, and particularly Walt Disney World, because that's where the bulk of the news that they announced is for the Florida parks.
Right, right. And all good things. I mean, I think the big fandom, the people that are like super into Disney, some of us have gone through this period of like not dissatisfaction. I mean, there's some straight up dissatisfied people out there, but also just some unhappy with the trending ways that things are going. And even I felt it sometimes. And I really don't get hung up on a lot of that kind of drama. But I have felt it some ways where I'm like, I wish that they weren't doing that. I wish that they were doing this. So everything that came out from Destination D also gave me a little bit of hope. And I'm not nearly on your level, but it gave me a little bit of hope that there were some forward positive movements. We can't fix what's in the past. Like, we can't ignore what's in the past. We can't go back and redo things. Like, what happened, what happened. However, we can move forward. And I do feel like this was all moving forward. Those were that's how I interpreted, like, the motto was like, we're going to move forward. We're just going to keep moving forward. So happy about that. Happy about that.
All right, ready to get into the actual news and updates?
I am. And since I was in Disneyland, can we start with Disneyland?
Yes, we will start with Disneyland.
Okay.
There wasn't a ton for Disneyland, so we'll do the two quick ones for Disneyland Park first.
Okay.
And these ones, the ones that they announced for Disneyland Park, are also things coming to Walt Disney World. So they made a brief announcement that Ahsoka, which, if the last episode of Ahsoka is one of the best Star Wars things I've ever seen, ever. So I'm all in on Ahsoka.
Okay.
But they announced that there is going to be an Ahsoka scene coming to Star Tours, both at Disneyland, Hollywood Studios, and in Disneyland Paris. And they also showed us, they walked out Asha, who's the lead character from the upcoming movie Wish. They walked her out, so we got to see her. She is also going to be coming to Disneyland and Epcot, which is interesting, but also Disneyland Paris.
Okay.
I normally would not mention like a single character coming out, but it's notable that Walt Disney World and Disneyland Paris also getting a character at the same time as Disneyland, because Disneyland usually is just much more on top of introducing new characters early, and they tend to wait before they go to other parks. So I actually think it is pretty significant that they've announced, like, at the same time this character is going to be at several parks around the world. So that was, again, little small encouraging updates that.
So the way I'm interpreting this is that they also like have a lot of faith in this movie. Like, they're expecting this movie. Maybe they're trying not to be caught unaware like they were with Frozen back in the day.
Or even Encanto.
Or Encanto, right. Like exactly. So interesting. All right. That makes me happy.
Yes. And then the one piece of news we got for Disney California Adventure, which was not the most surprising, but I'll be honest, surprised me a little bit. They showed us the vehicle for the Avengers Campus multiverse attraction. And I say this was surprising because they'd been kind of quiet about this attraction since the initial announcement. So it was on my list of things where I wasn't sure
if this was actually going to happen.
If it was still happening. So I was glad to see it. That's actually, I think, Avengers Campus. I enjoy it. Like, I have only had a minimal amount of time there, but I do enjoy what they've done with it, but it does need more. So I'm very happy they're still moving forward with this. And so the ride vehicle, again, it's all we really saw, but it is a vehicle with 3 rows of 2 people each sitting in it. So I feel like it might be similar-ish to like the Rise of the Resistance, maybe slightly bigger, but similar to those kinds of vehicles. But yeah, like I'm very encouraged.
The description that they gave, they didn't say rideless track, but is that right? Rideless track? No, trackless ride. Trackless ride. They didn't say trackless ride. So those words were not uttered, but that was
I'm not saying that. But so I'm like the shape of the vehicle.
But that was my first thought, because they did say practical sets.
Yes.
And so I thought of the ride vehicle moving around, like, Marvel stuff, just like we got to go, on all that stuff at Rise. So I was curious, but because they didn't say that, and also, to be honest, that ride breaks down so much.
Yeah.
I hope they have another option in their little,
my
kitty.
speculation, and again, this is simply speculation, is that it would be closer to kind of what they have over in the other park for another superhero who has a very so for the Spider-Man ride over at Universal. I think it's going to be like a combination of screens and practical, and I actually think that ride system makes a lot of sense. I think that there's still a lot you can like move forward that technology. That's kind of what I'm envisioning for how this will be. Could be totally wrong, but that's what I think we'll end up seeing, based on even just the look of the ride vehicle. But
I'm down with that, because I also, Spider-Man is one of my favorite, the Universal Spider-Man is one of my favorite rides. So I have
it still holds
complaints.
Up. Like it's many years later, ride. It's still a great attraction.
It is still a great ride. Yeah, agreed. So yeah, we'll see what they end up doing ultimately there. But I'm with you on I don't think we were actually expecting to get news for this until something big, like until a D23 Ultimate event, whatever it is. Until that happened, like I honestly didn't expect to hear anything until that point. So that was cool.
Yeah. So again, encouraging small updates. But that was really all we got announced for the California parks.
Now there was some other stuff. We're not going to get into it, but there was some other stuff that I saw online that people are hopeful, getting excited about this expansion over at Disneyland. So there could be, I guess there's some, I don't know, it wasn't permits, but it was agreements. I don't know. It was something that happened. You probably paid way more attention to this than I should have, but I didn't, as to what the details are. But I know there's some talk and some movement forward for some possible...
For Disneyland Forward, which is kind
Disneyland
of the name
Forward.
of the overall project.
There it is.
Yes.
There it is, the Disneyland Forward project. And so we did see some movement of that recently. TBD what exactly that will end up being and what will look like. But I have seen some people like draw out maps and what they think could happen. A third gate at Disneyland.
Which, yeah, and that's obviously, again, those are the big kind of announcements.
Blue sky, but I will take it.
And those, like I said, those are the kinds of announcements that they will save for D23.
Absolutely.
The ultimate fan event. Oh my gosh, I'm going to every time I have to say it, I'm going to have to stop and think for a moment. But those are the things that they'll announce in that type of venue.
So we'll talk about that when we get there.
I do expect we'll hear something. Just a heads up,
there could be, if you're thinking, well, how come Disneyland doesn't get any love? Well, we agree, but also there could be a lot more coming to our park, to my park ultimately. So we're just going to have to sit tight until that happens and see what happens. Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right, pivoting to Disney World, which park would you like to start with?
Let's start with Epcot, because Epcot had a lot of mini updates or announcements about ongoing things. So they did announce that the opening date of Moana Journey of Water will be October 16th, and Moana will also be doing a meet and greet there starting the same day. And speaking of meet and greets, it's happening now. You can meet and greet Figment.
I've seen your picture.
We did. So the Saturday night at Destination D23, we did do an evening at Epcot, which did include a walkthrough of Moana Journey of Water, which is gorgeous. I went at dusk, so I got the nice benefit of seeing it, lit up during the day, but then also how the different lighting package will start to change the feel of it as it gets into night.
Question about Moana.
Yes.
Space-wise, do you think, say, a bunch of 5K runners could go through there?
I think so, because the way that they have it set up, I would say, because it depends on how dry it is, because again, it's a water. You do not want any slippage, especially during a race.
Right.
But the way, when I was there, the way they had it set up, where it was big enough where people could be there and take pictures, but you could also have people kind of walking through if they just wanted to keep moving.
Because when I saw the date, which they did announce at this event, which is October 16th, when I saw the date, I was like, November is just around the corner and we'll all be there for Wine and Dine weekend. And wouldn't that be something with finally
it is a little windy. So it's not like a straight shot. My only concern was because it is kind of like curves around to make the most of the space. But it
Maybe.
I would say maybe, and maybe even just for like the 5K, like the smallest amount of possible runners going
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah. In
But
my head, I'm kind of thinking the 10K might actually be the most spaced out.
yeah,
So just the fewer amount of people at one time trying to go through that space. But we'll see. We'll see when maps come out, which should be in about a month, is what I'm going to guess. So we'll have to have our fingers crossed that happens. Okay, so you saw that and it was beautiful, and it was.
yes,
Is it worth going to see?
I think so. Yeah, like I said,
Worth all the time and energy to put together?
I, okay, I'm gonna say it this way. I think again, and it's so hard to assess this with Epcot because again, that COVID happened when they were
Yeah,
starting things. So this does not feel like an attraction that took 4 years to do.
right,
But again, so much of that was out of their control. It
right.
is really gorgeous. I hope they're able to keep all of the effects working. I know it's
Yeah,
sometimes like just over time can be a challenge, especially when you're dealing with water and pipes and those types of systems. I do think it's a fantastic addition to the park. It actually, and people know how I feel about Epcot, and I
yeah, and
am sometimes
IPs.
resistant to IP things in Epcot, but I think again, they found the right balance of how it doesn't feel in your face that it's a Moana
Moana.
attraction. All of the characters are there, kind of etched into different things. It kind of feels like hidden Mickeys around. Like you're not going to notice them maybe your first time through, but you can find a lot of the characters in different
Cool.
areas of this attraction. So again, I think that this is exactly the way I want to see that in Epcot. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. And like I said, in the Figment meet and greet, we got to meet him also at the event, and it just made my child heart happy. I did not visit. They call him Figzilla, which I love, like the tall Figment. So I did not meet the original Figzilla when he was there in the '90s.
Right.
So this was my first chance actually getting to see him.
Cool.
It just so full of joy. I did see that the first day he was in the parks, which is the following day, he had like a 3 to 5 hour wait. I
Yep.
haven't seen how bad it's been since that, so I'm hoping I can go again. That this is like my goal after doing the half in
Okay.
January. I want to do the half, and then I want to go and meet
And
Figment.
meet Figment.
Figment, I would expect to be on the Wine and Dine courses because it's Wine and Dine, and Figment
I
is.
would expect him to
I
be
would
at the
expect him to be on
end.
the course.
I don't think he'll be on the course. I think he'll
Okay,
be in the parking lot at the end, because otherwise,
people aren't
every
going to finish.
yeah, they will be sweeping record numbers of people at the wine and
Yeah,
dine races because of Figment. But I think you're right that he'll absolutely show up. He'll be there at the beginning and then he'll be there at the end.
yeah,
And this is your tip: if you want pictures of Figment and you don't want to waste park time, but you're chilling, you're already up anyway, and you're at that parking lot. Go ahead and get up even earlier and get
yeah.
into that parking lot even earlier, because that line will be huge if he is there, which I'm just thinking you're right. I think he will be.
It makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it's such a win. Like
Oh,
who's
totally.
going to be mad about that?
Nobody is. Nobody is. It's going to be joyful and happiness.
Yeah,
And this is from somebody who doesn't even get the whole Figment thing. Like, I mean, he's fine, but like, but also, I think it'll bring a lot of people, like, people get super excited about it. So,
yes,
and my Lucy, who's 12, dies over Figment. She thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So she's super stoked about this.
because she's very smart.
She's brilliant.
So respect that, Lucy.
Uh-huh.
So one of the other, and I feel like this is a big update, but we didn't get a ton of information. So World Celebration, which is that central area of Epcot,
Okay.
is opening in December. There's not a firm date. I have a suspicion of when it will be, but I think this is worth a world celebration because it means the end of Walcott. The end of Walcott, which I know we all really want. Like
Take them down.
yes, so I think we're all looking forward to that. They
Yeah.
announced the name of the new Nighttime's fireworks show is going to be Luminous Symphony of Us. That is debuting on December 5th. So I would believe that
Marathon weekend, people. Are you excited yet? Like, we're gonna have like a totally different marathon experience
Yes, and
for that race.
the reason I think December 5th is also going to be the date that it opens, though that is Walt Disney's birthday,
Yep.
and the statue
The
of Walt
statue.
is going to be
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's, you know, the significance of unveiling that on his birthday. I think that's the goal. I don't think they're giving a specific date because
Yeah.
they don't want to like last minute announce they're going to miss that. But I would expect December
Cool.
5th for all many reasons.
I can sign off on that. I can see that for sure.
Yeah. So we have two more Epcot updates. So number one is the OG Soarin' is coming back to Epcot for the first time since 2016. I have seen it when it's come back to Disney California Adventure,
Yeah.
so I didn't realize it had been this long.
I didn't realize that either until this announcement. And I was like, well, Disney World people, you really haven't smelled the oranges for
Some
so
people have never
long.
experienced it. I'm excited for everybody who has, you know, either not seen it in many years,
Yeah.
have never experienced it at all. I will be back in a couple weeks. So September 22nd is when it's coming back. There
Yep.
is no end date.
Yeah, I know.
So
I know.
don't wait on seeing it if you're there, but also who knows how long it will be around. I'm super excited to go back. That is one of my all-time favorite attractions. The music especially
It's
just resonates
incredible.
with
It
me.
really is. Yeah. And I was actually born in California and graduated high school in California. And in between, I like lived in Texas and other places. But California, that that soaring over California really is like nostalgic for me. Like it brings back home and it brings the whole Disneyland to Disney World. Anyway, I'm so excited about it. I hope it's still there for Wine and Dine because that's my next trip. So
Yeah, and I
fingers
think because they
crossed.
didn't announce an end date, like I said, I don't think
Possible.
it'll be a quick turnaround where they
Yeah.
have it. Like I think it will be around for at least through the end of the year.
I'm kind
I
of hoping through the holidays. I think
Yeah.
that could be cool to do. So
But yeah, so I'm very, very excited about that. And then the most surprising news of the day. This is the one that I don't think anybody was expecting to hear. 3.0.
sure.
We are
Sure.
getting a test track update, which I'll say makes sense because the vibes of current test track are very similar to what they've done with Tron in
Yep.
terms of the lighting, and I think it's showing its age,
Yeah.
but not the surprising part is not even just that we are getting an updated test track, which again I am all for. They specifically said that as part of this reimagining of Test Track, they are going back to their past, going back to early Epcot and bringing in elements of the original attraction in that space, World of Motion, and they want to
Yeah.
change the tone to be one of optimism, which I really think is what has been missing from that attraction, because initially it was about, you know, doing crashing the cars and kind of how they, you know,
Right.
making sure, and then it's like you're designing your own car and seeing how it does against the elements, and like the racing part, like the end where you go, like that designing the car and the very end are the two best parts of that attraction, and I think that's a little sad. Like it's not a bad design and not a bad system, but there's more they can do with it, and
Sure.
I'm super excited about the direction they seem to be taking. The one concept art they showed was like you're going through a wooded area. So it really does make it seem like it's going to be a full interior redesign.
Redo.
And I'm again just one of those announcements. Not I had no idea this was coming or even something
Interesting.
they were considering, and I just love it. I love how they announced it. I love that they again finding the right balance between what people loved about these parks growing up and what people are looking for in the future. I
Well,
This is
and
one of my favorite updates of the day.
it always makes me wonder, which part of me is like, there's no way Disney is making their decisions based on what they see us talk about on social media. But also, when Tron came out, that was one of the first things people were said is, okay, can we please have Test Track 1.0 again? Like, I mean, there was the OGs like were coming out, and they definitely noticed that significant linkage between the two and the looks. And so there was some of that, and it always just makes me wonder, like, how much people are actually paying attention to stuff like us that we say online. That who's watching our podcast? Who would like to
Right,
know?
yeah, exactly. I mean, we know they're
Yeah.
watching us. We know they're responding to
Well,
our thoughts.
but but yeah, I very much so. Yeah, I mean, when the strike gets cleared up after this drops, you're welcome. Iger's going to be like, oh, Patty said to fix it. Oh well,
Oh, that's all I needed. That was what I was looking for.
I was waiting. Okay, now that I know, now that she's made it clear, I will go.
Yes.
Sure, sure, guys, that's what's going to happen. Okay, we got one park left, right?
No, we've got two.
We got two parks. Oh, sorry,
So I'll say we've got 2.5. Let's go. We'll go to Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
There's a lot to say about Magic Kingdom. So they announced, I'll do two mini ones. The Hatbox Ghost, which we've known is coming. They've kind of talked about that. He's going to be materializing in November, which I think is a little bit of a miss because you are missing the Halloween movie. With that. It's a little bit of a bummer, but their schedule is their schedule.
Yeah, this one doesn't make any sense to me. I really thought it was coming with the movie.
Right.
Because they were really wanting to push the movie, and the Hatbox Ghost is like central figure in the movie if you haven't seen it. And so it's kind of weird that this has taken so long. However, it's like you said, their time frame is their time frame, and they got to, whatever. What do we know, right? We don't know what happened on the back end. Maybe that was absolutely the plan, and it just didn't work. Maybe they paid attention to social media and they said, we're going to make some changes.
Which is interesting. Yeah. There was a specific comment, and I didn't write this in my notes, so we're winging this. When they announced it, they said that it was going to be going in the attic, which people had feelings about because that is prior to...
No, the attic was what we wanted.
That's what we wanted. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they said it's going to be going earlier.
In the hallway.
The hallway scene.
Yeah.
And because that is prior to when you visit Madame Leota and the ghosts are starting to come alive. And so there was a comment during this presentation specifically about you never know where he'll show up. And I don't know if that was them walking something back, if that was their way of justifying him being earlier in the attraction. It was just picked up on that, and I don't know if offhand comment or if it's an intentional comment. So we'll see.
So we might be surprised that his location, or who knows, maybe he shows up in multiple places.
Yes. So
who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So more to come.
Okay.
Then the other non-update, they did mention the blue sky stuff that they had brought up at D23 Expo for the Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. And they actually made the comment that somebody who used to be with Imagineering has come back and is now leading that area. And he was like, well, if I was here, we never would have announced things that are just blue sky. And I think a lot of people were frustrated by how all of that information was presented at D23 Expo because it was very confusing. So they essentially said that, the Beyond Big Thunder Mountain expansion is still happening. They do not know what the final plans for that are going to be yet, but they are very, very excited about all of the work that is coming to Walt Disney World, and I think that expansion in general. So they are very hyped up about it. And again, I think this is another one of those big announcements. Even if they have it narrowed down and they feel like they know what it's going to be, they're going to save something like that for D23 Expo, D23 the fan event.
The fan event.
So there are two other, I think, very, very talked about updates for Magic Kingdom. We'll go into the one that I think most people are really excited for. There's also one that there's a lot. So they announced that Pirates of the Caribbean is going to be getting a tavern lounge area in Adventureland. And if you did not see the reel that they posted with this announcement when they made it with a bunch of the Adventureland cast members doing the Jack Sparrow run around Adventureland, it's super cute. I think I loved it. That was just such a great way of making that announcement. The friend I was there with, when we were talking, because they said the word tavern, we were initially thinking that, it might go over to Tortuga Tavern because tavern, and that's an underutilized space. That's also a very big space. And Tom Bricker of Disney Tourist Blog, when he was going through his thoughts about it, he made a really, really insightful point that in theory, because we know Tiana's Bayou Adventure is coming to that corner, it would make sense to use like part of like the Pecos Bills area and Tortuga Tavern if they kind of continued the Tiana theme and turned that into a restaurant similar to like what they're doing over in Disneyland.
Oh.
I could see that like using that as like a bridge between the Frontierland and the Adventureland side of things. So his theory for where this is going to go is in the Pirates League space that's kind of connected to the gift shop area for Pirates of the Caribbean, and to imagine it being similar to what we have at Oga's Canteen in Disney's Hollywood Studios.
That's initially when I thought it, I didn't even think of location or where it would be, but I assumed that it would be Oga's, but make it pirates. Like
yes,
we're
and they
mentioned go from space pirates to like real pirates,
right?
And,
yes,
and that was my visual for this, which also means more alcohol at Disney World.
And they didn't mention, there's no comment. They did mention it being for all ages, which not that Oga's
Oga
isn't.
is too, yeah.
Yeah, so there was no mention of alcohol at all. So there's a TBD on that, but they've introduced it at some of the sit down meals.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but that would be a big shift.
It would be a big shift,
Magic
like
Kingdom.
An actual bar in Magic Kingdom, essentially.
But if they do it in Pirates League, that is out of the way. So I think if they're going to do that, that's the best location to put it in. So
that's a great place to put it. Absolutely.
And one of my favorite announcements that I don't think has gotten enough love is they announced the Barker Bird is coming back, and you can see him if you were in the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction when you're going under the bridge, and there's like the hairy foot pirate.
Yes.
The bird is there, and there used to be an animatronic of the bird outside of the attraction that had like just a few recordings that he would they would come out every so often. So if you were in the queue or getting ready to go by, he would say a few things. I'm sure he's obviously going to be getting a new script. But so I figured that's
DJ Rex, right?
DJ, yeah, he's going to be the DJ Rex of that area. So like I said, we know this. I listen to park background music a lot, and I have listened through the whole Barker Bird spiel that used to happen. So even though I never saw it in person, I have like a weird offshoot of nostalgia for it because I have spent so much time listening to this. So I'm very excited, more than like the lounge bar aspect. I'm excited for the Barker Bird.
I think there's something there. I think that could be fun. Part of me is like, do we need this there? Probably not, especially if there's going to be alcohol. But also, I'm not a hater to it, and we're already serving it in the restaurants, and nobody is walking around wasted as they do at Epcot.
Right, and
so
it's going to be similar where you get 2 drink maximum at Oga's. You have a time.
Be a big issue. I think this will be fine if that's what they do. So
yes, and I think this kind of goes into what I was saying earlier about celebrating the parks, like. Pirates of the Caribbean does have, the film franchise, which
Absolutely.
is wildly popular, but it started out as a theme park ride, a theme park attraction. And I'm just so excited about them getting back into this. The things we've created for the theme parks are just as valuable as these films and characters we've created for, for entertainment. So I'm so excited they're kind of going back and focusing on their own IP characters that they've come up with for the parks, and finding ways to build more around that. So I'm excited about this. I feel like it's going to be, that hot ticket item. It's going to be hard to get into for a while.
It's going to be hard to be, yeah, for sure, because everyone's.
But even Oga's now you can always find time for Oga's. So I think it over after
give it a year, you're good. Yeah. You'll be able to get in. Okay, so there's one more thing that's happening at Magic Kingdom.
One more update.
And if anyone doesn't know Theresa, you probably don't recognize what a big, big, big fangirl she is of the stupid bears.
They're very good, Patty.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So yes, the Country Bear Jamboree is getting a whole thing, but they're keeping the bears.
So sometime in 2024, Country Bear Jamboree is getting an update, and I'll be honest, I actually did not write the name of the new version, but it's going to be a still musical variety show. So the bears are staying. One of the bears is getting a new name. Liver Lips McGraw is now Romeo. So there's that. But the Bears will be singing country versions of Disney songs. The one sample that they played is obviously the Bare Necessities. That's a come on, you have to do
Of
that.
course, of course.
But it's the country bears that we know and not everybody loves are not long for this. They're going to be hibernating for a bit.
They're gonna go down for a bit for a long winter's nap.
So if you haven't heard the story, a couple of years ago, I took Patty for her first visit, and she knows that the Disney I like is sometimes a little out there. I like the things that are, seem maybe just a little bit off, which the Country Bears are a perfect example of that. And she was just like, no. She walked in, she's just, no, never again.
And the only other time I've been through the Country Bear Jamboree was when we went trick-or-treating through the treat trail that went through there. Yeah, it was a thing. It was definitely interesting. And I appreciate people that love the things that they love. There's nothing wrong with that. That is the fangirl in me. I appreciate that. But it was like, this is a no for me, dog. Like, it's out there.
And I get it.
It's wild.
It is of a different time.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it had come out the time, like when I had taken Patty there, if it was like brand new attraction and that's what it was, I would be horrified.
Right.
Like, I can be honest. Like, this is not what you picture as being a Disney attraction, which is partially why I like it. But I'm struggling with it a little bit. Like, I'm obviously sad to be losing it, but I think this is the best case scenario for an update that we could have had, because like you said, the Bears are staying. We are still getting that in Frontierland. If they can keep like the banter or bring some of the banter back, because they did cut some of it for timing. If they can find a way to maybe like have one or two fewer songs and more of that banter between the characters, I think that's where the attraction really shines anyway. So I am trying to look towards the positive and be hopeful. This is the best case scenario that I think we could have gotten it very easily. They could have just gotten rid of it and put in like a Toy Story review. No, like, they could have done something else.
I'm thrilled with it that they didn't get rid of it for the historical nonsense of it all. But I definitely felt like it was screaming for an update, and it needs to be something more than just an air-conditioned spot.
Yeah, it's time. Like,
it's going to be good. I think this is a positive thing, and I will not be first in line. I'll let you crazies go first, but I will definitely go in and see it when it's new and refreshed, and let you know my review on that when it should happen.
This might be one that I do watch before going in person.
Oh, interesting.
I typically will wait. I typically will wait to experience something in person for the first time. But this is one I might just to let myself like pre-emotion, see if I can figure out how I'm going to feel in person when I go. So I think again we'll see. Cautiously optimistic, sort of. But again, my Bears are going to be there. They'll still be walking around Frontierland, maybe in their new outfits. So we still got some Bears. Now we're going to go to Hollywood Studios now, which really did not get any updates beside the Star Tours announcement with the Ahsoka going into the new scene. But the reason I want to stop on Hollywood Studios now and at this point, before we get to the biggest news of the day, is. So I didn't really bring it up, but during this entire parks panel, you had the Muppets coming out, and they did some really, really cute like scenes interacting with Josh. They interacted with like the different Imagineers. So basically when they were talking about each park, the Muppets came out, and they were there. Specifically, they had Fozzie come out after they announced the Country Bear Jamboree update. And for a moment, my heart stopped after this update, because I was so nervous. I was like, oh no. They just announced like a change to an opening day attraction for something. And I was like, if this is leading up to a change to Muppet Vision 3D, I would have started crying right then and there. It is something I am very, very strongly attached to, not just for the attraction itself, but also because it's one of the last things Jim Henson ever did before he passed. He didn't even live to see it introduced into the parks. He passed away during production of it. And I would have been so heartbroken in that moment, like,
Yeah.
especially after the Country Bears news,
The
to hear
only
that, you know,
thing I
if
wish they would announce is a
more Muppets.
refurb of those seats.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like updating the theater, I
The
am okay
seats
with.
are disgusting. Like the last time I sat down there, I was literally like, and I'm not like a super germaphobe, but like I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty chill about like you wash your hands afterwards, it's fine. But these seats, I was like, ew, ew, opening day attraction seats. Like,
Right.
let's get
It
let's
could,
clean these. Let's get new. They just need to be reupholstered. They're
you know,
awful.
Muppets always need some love. I would be
They do,
happy.
right?
They did have Sam Eagle come out. Jane would love this. They had Sam Eagle come out and talk about, you know, the American adventure and his restaurant and being the best thing. And I, for his half second, I was like, oh, are they updating American Adventure to put in Muppets? Because I will watch that.
I would totally watch
Be
that.
down for that. But again, so they really no updates for Disney Hollywood Studios. But I just needed everybody to know how thankful I am that I was like, Imagineering is like, not owns the Muppets, but Imagineering is like responsible for how the Muppets get
Yeah,
used within the parks right now. So for them to just have them commenting on the park updates, I thought was a fantastic use for
that's
them.
fun.
But in my head, I was like, oh no, let's get through. And yes,
The
so
shoe's
the
gonna drop
Muppets,
on me. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
the
All right.
Muppets are safe. So now we're going to talk about Disney's Animal Kingdom, which did have the biggest news of the day, and not what people were expecting. I think earlier in the week, they announced a lot of updates and showed more artwork for things coming to the international parks. And I believe it's Hong Kong that's getting the Zootopia land. No, it might is one of the Asian parks is getting the Zootopia
I
land.
think it's Hong Kong.
Okay. But so when they showed that artwork, the ride vehicle is the same style of ride vehicle as is used in Dinosaur. And we know at D23 Expo, they had talked about, you know, plans that are coming to Animal Kingdom to, you know, reimagine Dino Land USA. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, they're announcing all of this now and showing this
Shanghai,
artwork
not
now.
Hong Kong.
Shanghai, thank you. I
Yeah.
was like, yes, I knew it was an Asian park, but I was
Shanghai.
blanking.
Yep. I know.
So
I was
Shanghai.
thinking Hong Kong too, obviously. Nope, Shanghai.
Yes, but so they, like I said, the concept art. I was like, they're releasing all of this right now, so that way they could be like, and it's coming to Dino Land, which I would not have been my first choice. So when they did bring up Zootopia at Disney's Animal Kingdom, they had acknowledged like we thought it might go one place, but we have a different idea. So instantly, like ears perk up, and they'd started talking about a Zootopia show coming to the Tree of Life. And initially, as they were talking about it, I thought that they just meant like a projection show. And then they mentioned a Klaus Hauser animatronic, which was like, oh, with it's tough to be a bug. Like they are redoing the theater show,
Yeah, they
which
are.
I don't dislike that show. I think it has its merits, particularly if you're bringing people who have never been to Walt Disney World. It has its merits to get
For sure.
their reaction,
For
not knowing
sure.
what's going to happen. But I feel like it again, it's kind of like the evolution of parks. If you're finding something to update rather than add new, I think that's a really smart place to put Zootopia. They're talking about it's going to talk about the different biomes that animals live in. So again, it's not just putting characters in the park for the sake to put them in the park. It's relevant.
This has to make you happy from that perspective because I
Yes,
know that matters, and I think it does matter. I think it matters to like the theme of like Epcot to Animal Kingdom, those two parks in particular, is to give you a little bit of education or to tie it into some of these
right.
things. And so I like that too. I didn't realize that was the I don't know the topic of the show, but I was like Zootopia and Animal Kingdom. I can buy it.
I can get, like I said, I think of all the parks, it does make sense to be there.
Yeah.
But again, it's not going to be a shock to anybody to hear that parks like Epcot and Animal Kingdom in particular, I don't want lands focused around a single property.
Sure.
You know,
I get it.
you can say what you want, like Pandora. Again, it's not that I'm not a fan of the
You
land
know how
itself.
I feel about
I think it's gorgeous.
Pandora.
It's beautifully done, but in those situations, I wonder like, okay, when we have collectively moved on from this, I don't know if it has like just the lasting nature of something like Frontierland.
Right. I hear you.
I'm curious like at what point if they have to reimagine that area, how do you do that without starting from scratch and kind of take it? So I'm just not a fan of like single IP lands. I will give Galaxy's Edge a pass because it is more immersive and it does feel so large that to me it doesn't feel like a single property. And Star Wars is also its own thing.
I kind of feel like between Star Wars and even Avengers
Avengers,
Campus, like the same idea. Also, both of those properties have been around for a long, like they've proven their staying
right?
power, right? And so I can, I see where you're going with that, and I am nodding, going, she's not wrong.
And
And
it's and to the point, we're not going to talk about Galaxy's Edge being in Disneyland. We're going to separate that from this conversation.
right,
But Galaxy's Edge being in Disney Hollywood Studios makes sense
makes
if it's
sense.
literally a theme park about walking through the movies or being
Yeah,
immersed in movie magic. So
absolutely.
again, those kinds of parks, it makes sense. Avengers Campus and California Adventure is a little bit of a stretch. But again, I think the direction they're taking that park, it's kind of going in
I
that
think
same
that's the difference
walking
is
through these immersive
exactly. I think,
places that you've seen on the screen, you're now in them. I get it. But
yeah,
for something like Animal Kingdom, it's just not what I want.
fair.
And obviously that's
That's
what
all that
Disney should be
matters.
planning around is what I right. But so all of this discussion to say they did announce what the area is going to be for the replacement for Dino Land USA. And it is going to be themed around the tropical Americas, which is the like northern South America up through Central America. And I am just so ecstatic that it's a land that is based on an actual real world place. I think that that's an area that is largely very, very underrepresented
Hmm.
at Walt Disney World. If you think you have the Mexico Pavilion in Epcot, but that's about it. And I think South America is not represented anywhere other than food and wine booths. So I'm thrilled that we are getting just that location, that part of the world,
Well, it ties
bringing
in
it to
also
Walt
with
Disney World.
Asia and Africa. And I mean, in the
Yes,
sense that, like, we're looking at real lands, right? And so it
yes.
does make sense from a bigger animal kingdom theming to do it that way versus like Rando, Pandora, and Zootopia. So
Well, and
yeah,
it's area because the one thing that Pandora is missing is actual animals and animal exhibits and the way that you kind of have and you can walk through. Like I'm
yeah,
really hoping we get a walkthrough similar like to the Maharaja Jungle Trek
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
Gorilla
yeah.
Falls exploration. Like I'm hoping we get another walkthrough area. That's my favorite part of Animal Kingdom, to be honest. Like those
The
walkthrough
South
trails. I
American
love
and
them.
Central
South
American.
American, which would also mean because that's where the Amazon is, we might get a sloth, which sloths are my favorite animal. For anyone who does not know, if we are getting rid of dinosaurs, give me a sloth, even trade. Like,
We won't even be mad about it. Just make the
yeah,
sloths happen. Listen, sloths are so cute. I would
I
be
love them.
so, yeah, I would be down with
Yes,
like a sloth exhibit. That would be so
but
awesome.
yes, and then the other thing, again, not an official announcement,
Right?
but they did after they made this, they kind of panned out because again, there were a lot of things that were discussed for being in the Dinoland area during D23 Expo, and so they kind of panned out to show two things that they have phrased as being considered. And one of those should not be surprised to anybody, which is an Encanto attraction.
Sure.
They in the artwork, all they really showed was the casita. So this could be many things. I personally would hope for a dark ride because I
Yeah.
think number one, Animal Kingdom needs a dark ride. And I think
Yes.
that lends itself so well to one with like practical effects and animatronics.
Absolutely.
So I'm really, really hoping that ends up being a dark ride of some kind.
And wasn't the Encanto attraction confirmed slash announced slash something? I just remember Lin Manuel Miranda saying something like, "Yeah, we're doing something with Disney with Encanto," and
Yeah, I know
so
he had talked about like working with the music. Yeah, I can't remember exact phrasing he had
yeah,
either,
but
but
something was
we we've known
confirmed
it's
ish
a
that it
home run for
was,
them to do. Like it's a
yes,
win for them to put in like this, and I'm glad they are not waiting to do it. Like
yes,
it's that's something that they've struggled with is sometimes kind of like seeing what longevity something has before bringing it to the parks. I'm glad that they are trying to get this in. It's not obviously not going to be in super quickly because it's going to take time
right,
to develop, but I'm
does
glad that they are kind of considering they're
considered.
considering making
It's a
sure to
consideration. So listen, I'm going to go with this that it makes sense it could happen. Like, let's just wish this into existence and see some Encanto over there. I'd be down with
Yes.
that.
And then the other thing that for many years, people have been wishing something into existence, specifically in the Dinoland USA area,
It might have been
because
me this weekend on the ride, because literally when we were on this ride, I was like, I just want this at Disney World. And I really did say that. And then we got this consideration coming out.
yes. So for anybody who doesn't know, the dinosaur attraction, again, same ride vehicle and general ride system
Mhm.
as Indiana Jones Adventure over in Disneyland, which I think anybody can acknowledge that Indiana Jones Adventure is the superior version
Oh, a
of this
thousand
attraction.
percent. There's no,
It's I
it's,
love dinosaurs, but
no, yeah, no,
Indiana Jones.
I don't dislike dinosaurs, but it's like when, once you've been on, if you go on Dinosaur and then you go on Indiana Jones, you're just like, because it is unbelievably
You can actually see
wild.
what's happening on the ride, which
Absolutely. How,
complaint that I will have about other things, but I think it's just the
yeah,
lighting on Dinosaur is so hard,
it's really
aside from a
bad.
few areas, to tell what's
Yep.
happening. And Indy, there's like a few scenes where like when you're going through like the massive room, the way that
Mhm.
some things are end up being lit because of fire and other effects. Like it looks really cool. You have
It's
moments
so
of
cool.
seeing
You
these
see a
giant
lot
spaces and
more.
not
Yeah.
realizing how detailed they really are.
Yep, yep, yep.
So they
This is
started to play a little bit of
exciting.
the Indiana Jones music, and yeah, when they panned out, and showed that part of the concept art, the basically where dinosaur is where they are envisioning an Indiana Jones themed
Were
attraction.
your people mad about this? Because I know how people feel about things. And it, for the record, Dis Twitter feels very differently than like a regular park person who just is going to do
Yeah.
Disney once a year, right? And then not think about it again. And there's nothing wrong with that. I am not dissing anybody on Dis Twitter. I'm just saying, like, these are the people that have very strong feelings
They're
about
the
things like this.
quickest to share their opinions with you, like the
Absolutely,
quickest to do
absolutely,
it.
absolutely.
I
So, what was the overall kind of vibe in the room when this was it a? Or was it
No, I think people were really excited.
a okay.
I do think, again, everything in the parks has its fans. Like
Mm-hmm.
even things I know people who were Harmonious, like super fans, and really
Yeah,
annoyed about Harmonious
the
being
three of
taken out.
them that exist. Yeah,
So yeah, so like everything in the parks has a fan.
sure.
Yeah, so like there's an audience for everything. But again, I think Dinosaur, even like the current iteration of dinosaur that we have, is not what we originally had when it
Right.
was Countdown to Extinction. And I think there are people who are like, well, that was the superior version, because it was that I never rode that, but I know people are like, that was a legitimately scary attraction. Like
Right.
people, they think they felt like they had to change it because it
It
was
was
a
a little
little
too
over the top,
intense.
for too intense for some, like kids who are tall enough to ride. But even like Nathan, the current version, my youngest nephew, terrified. Like he does not do that
Doesn't do
attraction. He
that one.
like
Got it.
hides and like squeezes my hand. So
Paul.
yeah, so I think this is. I actually have not really heard negative reaction
Okay.
to, I think, to any of the Animal Kingdom updates. Again, I feel like everyone's approaching this as, of all the things they could have announced, these all feel like the best case scenarios, and a way to, you can't make every single person happy,
Right.
but finding elements to bring into that kind of like redesign and redevelopment to make the most number of people happy, and to give people from different fandoms, like people who like the parks and people who like being in Animal Kingdom because of exploring actual locations around the world, you have something for them by bringing in, like, the tropical Americas. For people who do want more characters to be in the parks, you're giving that to them within certain parts of this land. So
Right.
I feel, again, I said it earlier, they seem to be finding the right balance of how to incorporate what anybody who's coming to the parks is looking for, which is a really, really hard thing to do when you
For
have
sure.
fans from the 70s onwards, or even, going back, for park specific fans, going back from the 50s, who, like, were over at Disneyland. I think they are doing the best they can. And this is why I'm saying I'm really excited about the direction they're taking things, because it is, I feel like I am getting what I want. I feel like other people who do just like love the movies and want to be in their movies, I'm like, they're getting what they want too. And I'm really excited for once they can kind of confirm what is happening in this area and what we'll get. My personal opinion is, assuming it's an Indiana Jones attraction, I don't think it'll be a direct clone of Indiana Jones Adventure, because again, it's not dated, but it is a pretty old attraction at this point, even though they've been giving it updates. So I think they're going to find, a way to enhance it and maybe give us the superior version.
Hey, it could happen. It could happen. I'm down with that. Let's make some big changes. Let's have a new
so I'm excited to see what they do with it. And I even had somebody mention that something like, I know that they had mentioned for their family, like the dig site that's over there is something they were really sad to tentatively lose, because that's a great area for kids to run around
Archaeology,
and explore. Exactly. And like if it's indie, like, or even in Kanto, like there's a lot that they can do to keep that kind of attraction for kids who like need some time and space to run around.
It's a great
and get their energy out.
Downtime. Like mom and dad can just chill and the kids can go crazy and have some fun and do all the digging.
The artwork had some trees and water, which Dinoland is a parking lot. Much needed, just like
100%.
Atmosphere enhancements to that area as well. So concept art is never what something actually ends up looking like, but just from what they showed, I was like, this is now a part of the park where I feel like I would be happy to just kind of like walk through and sit down. They showed like a big seating area, so you can imagine that Restaurantosaurus is going to get, some love and
some update. Yeah.
So I'm very excited.
I haven't made a point of going back to Animal Kingdom since they took away Kite Tails.
Oh.
So
is there a way that we can work it back?
I know.
Now that would have been the top announcement of the day.
Honestly, the crowd would have gone wild if we got Kite Tails back.
They're saving that for Expo because it's that big of an announcement.
Maybe that's what it is. But that was such a fun, joyful little show, and I'm sure there were some reasons that they got rid of it, but it was amazing. It was amazing. But I'm super happy, just as again, not the crazy nerd that you are, but as somebody who does want to keep going to these parks and wants to see things growing and moving forward and changing, I'm happy with everything that they've announced so far. So let's go. Let's make it happen, baby.
Yeah, and so if you have any opinions on the Disney Parks news that was announced during this panel, if you have any questions about Destination D23 or D23 Expo, you can find us on Facebook at No Guilt Disney, or you can send us your questions through email at noguiltdisneypod@gmail.com. I don't usually say it, and I give Jane grief when she gets it wrong, so I'm really glad I got all that right.
I'm proud of you.
And make sure you join us each week on the No Guilt Disney podcast, because as Patty likes to say,
it is no fun to fangirl. D23, the ultimate fan experience. Wait, is that even close?
Yes, I think that's right.
Hello.
D23 Tooth, as I'm calling it.
All right. Yeah, let's do that, baby. Bye, y'all.